Mike Reynos here for the Coachspeak Index. Folks, we lost a good one in fantasy this week. RIP to 2025 Coachspeak Index flag plant Cam Scattaboo out for the season. All the Scattaboys just letting out one big Madone in unison. Brutal stuff. Had 29% of them in best ball this year. Felt very convicted. He was going to take over that RB1 job and do something really good with it. And he was. He was crushing, man. And that it's just so fun to watch. You know, we heard Brian Dable in the offseason talk about the personality that Scattaboo runs with, which I thought was a really, one of those things that a coach says that's easy to kind of overlook, kind of underrated thing for a coach to say about a player, but it's actually like very, very big. Talking about the personality a guy runs with on the field. Kind of like Dave Canales talking about Rico Dowdle makes their schemes come alive. You hear him say that, you read it, and you're like, all right, that seems cool. But it's actually, and it is. It's cool, but it's more than cool. It's big. It gets you into their like mindset, how they view this player. Yeah, huge bummer. I thought it would be like, I'm surprised I'm not more shattered at this. Had Scattaboo on a third of my best ball teams. For some reason, like when I lost 17% Rashee Rice last year, felt more devastating than 29% Scattaboo this year. But like it hurts, but just got to zoom out. I think maybe I've just gotten better at zooming out. Hey, this is one season. We'll get him next year. This is just like one hand of poker, basically. I think I talked about this with Davis Maddock during the offseason about each of these like big best, these best ball seasons that we do. It's like one hand of poker playing out. You move on to the next one when this one is finished, and I'm just moving on in my mind to next season. At least 29% of me is moving on to next season. Brutal stuff. But hey, that's fantasy football. That's the way that it goes. You go into it knowing that, realizing that, and then when these awful things happen, you can just remember that, and that helps you cope. Right? We're gonna be good. We're gonna be fine. You know what else is gonna be good is signing up on Underdog Fantasy, where I drafted all of these best ball teams, and I continue to draft some dog ball teams, do some pick'ems, which is very easy to do when Underdog is offering promos all the time of, hey, here's a discount, here's a free square, here's a 40% boost. Yeah, I'll take advantage of that. You can too with this QR code in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Get yourself up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick'em. Got a link in the description as well. Something I'm looking at, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to take it or not, is Ollie Gordon higher than 18.5 rushing yards tonight against the Ravens. We will talk about Ollie Gordon in just a little bit. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about some running backs. Start off with the Dallas Cowboys. These are just all things that I'm pulling from the Coachspeak Index Discord here that have been sitting in there from this week. Head coach Brian Schottenheimer was asked about Jaden Blue's performance last week. Schotty said, Jaden was inconsistent in the game. He did some really good things, and then there were some things that he's got to do at a higher level. The fumble was a good hit. He needs to hold on to the ball. He can continue to emphasize playing more physical with and without the ball. I'm always going to go back to consistency. You can't put the ball on the ground. You have to be on top of your blitz pickups. You have to do those things. I told him that he has the perfect guy to learn from in Javonte Williams. Javonte does everything right. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Malik Davis and the job he's doing for us. We're all about creating competition. That would be another battle to watch. So we heard this consistency line over and over from Brian Schottenheimer early in the season when Louis Vuitton was a healthy scratch. This is real bad, okay? Because then you have Shoddy now bringing up Malik Davis completely unprompted, saying that Davis and Blue will be competing for the RB2 spot. The rookie is let's say he's Jaden blowing it right now, okay? Miami Dolphins, they got all three of their running backs involved early and often against the Atlanta Falcons in Week 8, and the coaching staff had quite a lot to say about that rotation this week. On Monday, head coach Mike McDaniel said, I think the biggest upside of using all three running backs is the different ball carriers that defenders have to tackle. I think that's underrated. You have a little change up in body makeup, size, conviction. It's a different target. It's a different in-hole speed. It's a different tackle. That, in combination with having the ball carrier be as fresh as can possibly be, you get a lot of bang for your buck if you're able to distribute the ball amongst all of your eligibles, specifically your running backs. You're able to have everybody get a taste and a little momentum and make defenders tackle the different body types and different players. With a talented backfield, you're trying to get those guys the ball. It works to our overall benefit if we can get those guys touches for sure. And then the next day, McDaniel talked about that backfield rotation again, stating that getting everybody involved is important, giving them the opportunity to take more of a share depending on how guys are playing is important. Then also on Tuesday, offensive coordinator Frank Smith was asked about using all three running backs early against the Falcons. Smith said that allows us to get our guys in the rhythm of the game and be able to use their skill sets for what we wanted to accomplish. When you're getting your guys in the game early, that allows them to get in the rhythm and feel and all the emotion of the game. I think that's not just limited to the running backs. We're trying to get as many guys in as we can just to give the defense different presentations and looks to see what their response is. I believe that we will continue to see this kind of rotation in neutral and positive game scripts for the Dolphins. The problem is I'm not sure how many neutral and positive game scripts Miami finds themselves in for the remainder of the season, but it seems like they will attempt to involve Ollie Gordon a bit more early in games, and then Jalen Wright to some smaller extent as well. If you look back through Mike McDaniel's Coachspeak and backfield philosophy over the past few seasons, he really does lean towards a hot hand approach. Now, when you have a guy with the talent that Devon Achane has, obviously that guy's hands are going to stay pretty hot. But the Dolphins obviously see some utility in getting the other guys involved. And the point that the coaching staff is making about how a different running back in the game presents different problems for the defense makes some sense. Style, it's a common thing you hear. Styles make fights, right? So Miami's week 8 backfield deployment isn't going to be the same every week. After the Niners played Atlanta in week 7, head coach Kyle Shanahan revealed that he told his team the night before the game that I want to run the ball 40 times tomorrow. They ended up with 39 rushes in that game. Shanahan knew that they could pound the Falcons on the ground, especially right up the gut. Mike McDaniel did basically the same thing in week 8. I would be looking at Ollie Gordon's rushing props in any game where the Dolphins are playing against a soft run defense, especially a game that has a lower spread on it, maybe one where the Dolphins are favored. I don't know how many of those games they have left on their schedule, but just one of those things that I would keep kind of in the vault of my mind. The Carolina Panthers, I'm not going to go through all of that stuff. It's so much stuff. It's all in the Coachspeak Index Discord. That's the top right-hand corner of your screen there, QR code, link in the description as well for that. But we'll say that it's looking pretty good for Rico Dowdle. We're getting a lot of Dave Canales talking about Chuba Hubbard in the past tense, which kind of signals that maybe they're moving away from Hubbard towards Rico Dowdle, who's been more explosive, sets them up for more success. Canales basically thanked Chuba Hubbard for his service thus far. But yeah, expecting some Rico there. If you're interested in all the quotes, check out the CSI Discord. Let's talk about a wide receiver. Possibly it's a wide receiver. We're going to put it in the wide receiver category. You'll see why as we get into this. But Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell was asked this week whether there are any players that he wants to get more involved after he did some self-scouting during the bye week. Campbell said, quote, "Yeah, there are some things that I feel like we can do a better job with. I'm not going to highlight who those are, but there's certainly some guys it's like, man, how do we set them up to have success, to help us? Their production in certain areas, just to really use what they have. There are some guys that certainly we can help them. And by helping them, they're going to help us tremendously," end quote. It's very interesting that Dan Campbell said, I'm not going to highlight who those are, because it is very rare that Dan Campbell keeps things close to the vest. Off the top of my head, I can't even remember an instance where Dan Campbell is asked about something and he does not give an answer to the question. So here's what we'll do. I think we may have a couple context clues as to who Dan Campbell could be talking about. At a different point in the same press conference, Campbell said that a lot of the bye week self-scout he did was on the offensive side. So that's clue number one. I don't believe that David Montgomery is one of the guys he's talking about, because Campbell has already commented on the backfield quite a bit. We kind of know where that stands. You know, is it Isaac Tesla? Maybe, right? Is this a guy that's going to help tremendously, though? Like Campbell said, he is a good red zone threat. We've seen the Lions already use him in that area. I think the main guy that Dan Campbell is secretly referencing here is Jameson Williams. I can't help but think back to a comment that offensive coordinator John Morton made several weeks ago in a presser about how opposing defenses have been very intentional about not letting Jameson Williams beat them deep, how a lot of energy has been directed towards Jamo. When you look at the difference in Jameson Williams' average depth of target from last season and this season, it is stark. 11.4 average depth of target in 2024. In 2025, that ADOT is all the way up to 17 yards. What happened to those short and intermediate drags and crossers from last season where they get the ball in his hands on the run and just let Yak God take over the wheel? What happened to all that slot work that Jamo was getting during training camp when coaches were raving about how unbelievable he looked? They paid this guy a big old bag of money this offseason, but you would never guess that by the usage that he has seen through the first 7 games of the Lions season. I would not be surprised if we see that average depth of target come down a bit after the bye week. We get some short and intermediate targets mixed with those deep shots. Talk about a tight end real quick here. Green Bay Packers. This Tucker Kraft train keeps a rolling. Head coach Matt LaFleur was asked before this season whether Tucker Kraft could fulfill a George Kittle, Travis Kelce role. And LaFleur said, quote, 100%. And I think that's on us to make sure that we find him and feature him. When he gets the ball in his hands, you feel him. So if there is an area that we got to do a better job on, I would say featuring the tight end, end quote. Fast forward several months later, and we are seeing Matt LaFleur feature Tucker Kraft. LaFleur was asked after last week's game against Pittsburgh whether he feels okay about building a passing game where the tight end is a really, really big part of it. LaFleur said, quote, "We'd be crazy not to. He was a beast. He was a man possessed. And you just got to find ways to get him the ball," end quote. I would expect this to continue. I think probably everyone would, not just this season, but for a long, long time. Tucker Kraft is one of the NFL's elite tight ends. Maybe throw out a little feeler in Dynasty and see if you can get him. I mean, you can't get him cheap at this point, but would at least be worth it to put a feeler out there to see what is being asked for Tucker Kraft. Let's do like 4 quick hits here, real fast from the CSI Discord, and then we'll get out of here. Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans said that Jalen Noel is jumping off the tape for the past couple weeks, making some big-time plays for us. The things you saw him do at Iowa State is showing up, the explosiveness, him down the field, his return ability. Chargers offensive coordinator Greg Roman stated that Trey Harris is ascending. He's doing a lot of dirty work. When you do dirty work, you're going to get some crumbs thrown your way in the form of pass opportunities. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski said, "It's not lost on me that Jerry Jeudy is our best player at that position, and we have to get him the ball." And then finally, Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson stated that I anticipate Darnell Mooney kind of taking off from here. He's finally getting his legs back. Obviously, we know what he can do at a high level. He had a great season last year. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us this week. I'll see you in the Coachspeak Index Discord, where I'm watching 100 plus press conferences every week from head coaches, offensive coordinators, general managers. Put all the important quotes into the Coachspeak Index Discord in separate team threads. It's the most valuable tool in all of fantasy football. And I'll see you in there. And I'll see you here next week. Sarah, take us out.